Good afternoon, I'm Ryals Parker. I'm the Executive Director of Behavior Supports. Thank you for watching this video or being here to kind of hear this presentation. We're going to do a couple things today between myself and Janessa Carr, our Administrator of Safe and Secure Learning Environments. First, I'm going to review our consent agreement with the Department of Justice. I'm going to review some behavior data and some trends that we're seeing and also some next steps, and then I'm going to hand it over to Janessa Carr. So we entered into a consent agreement with the Department of Justice on September 12th of 2022. So we are in our third year of around a 4-year agreement. We can be released from the agreement on June 30th, 2026 if we've met all the required things within that agreement. So while I know sometimes hearing about a consent agreement with the Department of Justice might not sound like a positive thing, it does provide us a lot of opportunity to create supportive, safe, and secure learning environments for all of our students, no matter what difficulties they may have entering into our schools. If you do have questions about this presentation and would like to reach out, you can look at the QR or use the QR code there. At the end, I'll also provide my email where you can reach out at any point in time as we go throughout the semester if you have any questions regarding the agreement or behavior in general across the district. The top 5 changes that came about because of the agreement are that we now have safety teams and crisis prevention protocols that are set in every single of our school buildings. We require mandatory trainings around de-escalation for all of our staff and work groups. And we also have done a lot of work on retooling our our functional behavior assessments and our behavior intervention plans to make sure that our plans that we have for our students with the most needs are very, very good, research-based, strong plans so that we can help them improve. Some other highlights for the agreement is that we do not have seclusion in the Cedar Rapids School District. That is something that we have passport policy to no longer have that in our district. And we also have limited physical restraint to when there is an imminent risk of substantial bodily injury to a student or a staff member, which is a different threshold than maybe we had before. A safety team is simply a group of individuals in every school that has more training than others on how to de-escalate students and how to, if necessary, use physical interventions to restrain a student or move a student out of harm's way. We have that team in every building. If you are interested to know who is on a specific school safety team, you can use this link off the slides. You can also go to our webpage down at the bottom. It's called Crisis Prevention at CRCSD. There's a list of every single building, and it has an up-to-date list of their safety team members. If you had any questions for them, you could also reach out to that building's administrator. Our de-escalation training addresses nonverbal, verbal, and environmental interventions that can be used to respond to student behavior and prevents further escalation of that student. This is a training that we have our engagement specialists do across our district, and it is a wonderful training. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback on it, and it helps prevent crisis events before they're even so escalated that we have to use physical intervention to de-escalate a student. So it's a very important training that all of our staff members receive now. There's a lot of talk of FBA and BIPs if you're less familiar with those. An FBA, a functional behavior assessment, is used to define a behavior of concern by identifying the factors that support the behavior and determine the underlying function and purpose of the behavior. If we can understand the function of a student's behavior, we can better create a plan to intervene to help assist them through their educational activities. And that leads us to the behavior intervention plan. We call it a BIP, and that's a very detailed plan about how to work with a student on their behavior. It also includes a lot of supports that we provide to students to keep them at baseline so they're not escalating. With this consent agreement comes many changes in board policy. I've got those here. You can also obviously see those if you were to look at all of our board policies. Some changes specifically around seclusion, right? Seclusion is defined as if a student is alone in any room or area which the student is not free to leave. It's important to note that it does not include if a student voluntarily wants to go to a space. We have some students that maybe have a sensory thing that they want to be in a space alone. They're obviously welcome to do that. We just can't force that upon them where they're alone in a room. That is considered seclusion. Again, here is another board policy that's specific around restraint. Again, we have a different threshold for when restraint is used, and that is the imminent risk of substantial bodily harm. And I have some examples there about what exactly that means legally. And also that a physical restraint is basically when a student cannot voluntarily move a part of their body, right? So they can't involuntarily move their arms or legs or head. That would classify as a restraint under our board policy. Again, that's very important is that we use physical restraint only as a last resort when there's imminent risk of substantial bodily harm, that we're doing everything possible with de-escalation, with removing other students, to keep that student and others safe without having to physically intervene is the ultimate goal. We do understand that there are certain circumstances where it is necessary, but it should always be as a last resort, and that's what this board policy addresses. Finally, it's important to note that there may be a crisis event that occurs where an individual has to intervene to keep people safe that is not a safety team member. That is okay. However, the goal of the agreement is that as much as possible, the people intervening are our safety team members because they have gotten additional training and they can better de-escalate and physically intervene if necessary with a student. Last thing I want to kind of discuss is that there is a requirement under the agreement that if a student is involved in a physical restraint, we do offer an evaluation to that student. So if a student is restrained, an administrator or teacher will be reaching out to that student's family to offer, if they would like to have a more in-depth evaluation, that we can conduct that for them in partnership with the AEA to really truly find out if something is going on that we need to get to the bottom of, if we need to write an FBA and a BIP to help assist that student, that parents know that they have that right to get that service from us. So what does that really mean for how we support students? There's a process that is required as part of the agreement when it comes to debriefing an incident. And what starts with a very potentially small incident or a one student incident does have huge impacts on our entire system as far as how we improve our practices for students. So if you kind of can follow this visual here, in the center there is a student has a restraint. Then the next layer is that school safety team debriefs the incident. The next layer is that our director of behavior supports, Tammy Beener, reviews that paperwork, and then she goes out to the building and leads a debrief about that incident to get some outside eyes on and provide some recommendations. At those meetings, there's often a lot of recommendations specific to that student about maybe what they could do to improve, some think-abouts, some things for that team to go away with, to try to think about how they could improve their practices or dig into certain parts of that student's plan. That's usually the outcome of that meeting. In addition to that, if a building has had a restraint, that building must have a monthly behavior meeting, but that meeting is more broad. We look at all the behavior trends in that building across the previous month, not just a student restraint. And from that come recommendations for the building and district level to really make improvements to our practices, not just isolated to one student or one building, but truly across the entire district. So one restraint creates a huge ripple effect of potential improvement opportunities for our district, and we're making sure that we're providing lots of layers of support to make sure that we're getting better as a system in addition to for individual students. This year, our focus of myself, Tammy Beener, the director, Chris Gibson, our director of student services, Janessa Carr, like I mentioned earlier, a big focus for us this year was to make sure that our data was very accurate. We knew going into this year that different schools potentially reported things differently or logged things differently, and that created issues for us because it made it more difficult for us to know exactly what buildings needed what, when, and how. So we worked very hard with administrators and engagement specialists, especially throughout the summer and the fall, to improve our data collection. So we feel very confident now that we have much more accurate data about the things behaviorally that is happening in our buildings so that we can better respond. So if you look at our raw numbers, we have increased compared to last year. However, I will say I do believe a large portion of that is due to our more accurate data collection, which is great because now we know who needs what, so we can start intervening on those things. The other big focus for myself and Tammy Beener especially was to improve clarity around the agreement. This is the third year in the agreement. I happen to be the third executive director to oversee this agreement, so it's very important to me that everybody be clear about what the agreement is and what it isn't, so staff feel comfortable working to better support our students. The findings that we've had so far this year is that we have an increased behavior referrals during transition years. So that will be moving from one school to the other or transitioning into school altogether. This is especially notable between pre-K and kindergarten, or even more likely our kindergarten students that did not attend our preschools in CRCSD. We noticed a large spike in behavior at that time. We also noticed a spike in behavior referrals between 8th and 9th grade, so that transitioned to high school. So our team is working with other teams across the district to put plans in place to mitigate and solve those issues as we move into next year. We're looking at ways to better support our pre-K and kindergarten students' social emotional needs, mental health needs, and also the needs of their families when it comes to resources, food, transportation, those kind of things, to make sure that they have access to a good education, so that way we can see dividends on that as we move forward in their educational career. The other thing that we're really working on is with the implementation the year after next of 9th grade academies at our high schools. We're working very closely with our PBIS team through the AEA to make sure that we're providing lots of support and training to make sure that those 9th grade teams are tight on expectations for students, because we know if we're very consistent on expectations, students will rise to the occasion as long as they understand what they need to do. So we know that that's an issue going from 8th to 9th grade, and we're trying to build a system to address that for our students. This is our data for this year. You'll notice that at the beginning of the year, we were very high in restraints per day, over 3.5 per day. But currently in January, we're at just over 1, I believe 1.1 per day. So we have seen a steep decline in our restraints that occur in our district. One, we saw a rise at the beginning of this year because we did really focus to make sure we were documenting things appropriately so that myself and Tammy Beener could become involved to help teams work through situations. And by doing that work, we've seen a steady decline in the restraints we're having every day, which we're very happy about. And that trend so far is continuing into February, which we're even more excited about. If we think about restraints as the most severe behavior log or intervention that could happen, the next most severe under that would be behavior incidents that involve physical aggression, right? So that could be fighting, physical aggression, that could be throwing a pencil across a room, could be counted as physical aggression. So it's not always super severe like some people maybe think it is, but that's our next level of things we're trying to address. Through addressing a lot of the work around restraints and our monthly recommendations, we have also started to see a decline in our physical aggression office referrals, which you can see is that red-orange dot line there at the bottom. So we've started to see a dip there. And then we're also seeing a dip starting the last couple months in our overall office referrals across the district. We believe strongly that these trends we're seeing is because of the involvement we've been able to have in that debriefing process and kind of that ripple process. So what starts with student level problem solving has been able to create solutions that go throughout our entire systems that we're starting to see some dividends from and some output from. We're hoping those things continue and feel confident that starting next year, putting some of these things in place right away at the beginning of the year, we will make sure that we have a very smooth transition for our students as they start the school year. Again, here is a QR code that you can scan if you have any questions. And also, this is my information. My emails are partner@crschools.us. You can also find my information on the crisis prevention tab of the Cedar Rapids School District. I'm going to pull up Janessa Carr's presentation, and she can take it from there. There's that.
Okay, I am ready to go. So good evening, parents and caregivers. My name is Janessa Carr, and I'm the Safe and Secure Learning Environment Administrator for the school district. Today, I'm just going to be giving you a high-level overview of safe and secure learning. I'm going to talk a little bit about our school resource officers and share some data with you about some of the work they're doing. I want to share a little bit about our district review data and the process with that, give you some information about Crisis Go, and talk about some recent safety enhancements and initiatives in the school district and some immediate challenges and priorities within safe and secure learning. And then last but not least, talk about our CRCSD hierarchy of safety needs. Okay, so we have school resource officers posted at each of our high schools. So I wanted to share a little bit about the data surrounding some of their work and the collaboration that we have with them. So the data that we're looking at here is a comparison of data from the 2023-2024 school year to the 2024-2025 school year. We took the data from August through December and just want to share some of the improvements that we've had in the charges and arrests. And so for diversions specifically, we've seen a 14.29 increase in our work with CRPD and with our SROs, and our diversions are really any time that an SRO is able to divert a student from receiving some sort of charge or arrest. We have seen a 44.12% decrease in charges and arrests across the board in our work with CRPD and SROs. We have seen students with IEPs a 38.46% decrease from last year to this year. Males, 48% decrease in those charged. 44% decrease for females, 64% decrease for Black students being charged and arrested, and a 14.29% decrease. And the reason why we share that data is because we are aware of just the different narratives that have come out in our community and in the school district within the past 5 or so years. And so this is really our effort to be more transparent in that data and to show that the collaboration with CRPD and SROs is working, and we are seeing the outcomes that we want to see, which is ultimately less students charged and more increased diversion. Some of the other data are really important to share. Most of this pertains to parents and guardians, really for students in grades 6 through 12, but we do have a district review process. We typically bring incidents that involve weapons, fighting, and threats to our district reviews. What that really looks like is if weapons, fights, or threats, any incident within that realm takes place, those are usually referred to a district review. At that district review, there's typically a building administrator present, the student involved in the infraction, their parent or caregiver, and really anyone else involved in that student support system. And so that time is really for the student to be able to talk about what took place. It's a time for the building to be able to talk about their concern. It's a time for the parent to be able to talk about their concern and really do just an overall review and summary of that student. And so there's typically an outcome as a result of the district review. And so I really wanted to just take the time to share a few high-level stats on the district review process. So in district reviews, we have had 55% of district reviews have been with students at the middle school level, 45% at the high school level. And this is data really just from August to December of this school year. Our repeat offense rate, and what that means is students who end up coming to district review more than once, was at 3.15%. So from August to December of the school year, over 96% of the students did not come back for district review, which is an awesome stat to share. And pretty soon we will be sharing the stats from January and February as well. 19.6% of the students referred to district review happen to be students with a background of 2 or more races, 43% Black, 5.5% Hispanic, and 29% white. The majority of the district reviews were being reported out of Area 2. And as we really continue in the conversation of safe and secure learning, we'll be able to dive deeper in what that means. But for right now, I'll just give you that high-level stats. The different outcomes that could come as a result of a district review would be that student returning to their building on some sort of plan. That student might be referred to a temporary alternative setting, or sometime the student is placed online. Very rare, but that is an outcome that could come as a result of a district review. Just giving you a quick update on Crisis Go. Many of you should have received communication on Crisis Go throughout this school year and last school year as well. We secured the Crisis Go contract last school year. This fall, our district emergency response team received some training. Our building administrators received training as well. And right now we're in the process of rolling training out to staff in the district. Our hope is that by this fall, we will be able to make sure that all parents are subscribed to updates. Right now, our buildings are really just using Crisis Go to be able to notify us when an emergency is taking place, and also using Crisis Go during drills. And so typically, you will not get any notifications from Crisis Go during this school year. Right now, all of our buildings are just in the process of learning how to use Crisis Go and getting staff onboarded. Other quick recent safety enhancements and initiatives going on in the school district. In December of 2024, we put out our first edition of the Safe and Secure Learning newsletter. Parents and caregivers should be receiving another one in March, and then another one in June towards the end of the school year, just to keep you updated on what's happening in Safe and Secure Learning. We do have some Safe and Secure Learning parent info and engagement sessions coming up. I'll share those dates with you now. So Monday, March 24th, we will have a state of safe and secure learning environments in CRCSD. Myself, Ryals Parker, who you just heard from, and then Chris Gibson will be present during that time. Thursday, April 17th, we will have another parent engagement session. The topic of that will be shifting safety culture in CRCSD. And then Monday, May 12th, it'll be virtual. That one will be a special focus for parents of incoming 6th grade students, just learning about what safe and secure learning looks like at the high school level. As we know, risk and all of the concerns continue to increase as kids get older. So we really want to work on engaging parents ahead of time and helping them understand what really discipline and expectation looks like at the middle and high school level. One of our alternative sites is piloting a new cell phone policy. It is going pretty well so far. And included in that policy is they're actually using lock boxes, so that's just information we wanted to share. We'll be able to share more out in probably our last Safe and Secure Learning newsletter at the end of the year on kind of how that went. And then we also have Stand Up for Peace middle school groups happening at Franklin, McKinley, and Roosevelt, and those are really anti-group violence prevention groups. Some of our immediate challenges and priorities as a school district right now is really making sure that students and staff are both receiving safety training, that it is consistent, that it is clear, and it is concise. So making sure that that is ongoing, that's really a high priority for us. Another just immediate priority is establishing safe and secure learning as a culture district-wide. Once again, this is really just the first effort to engage and really be more public about what we're doing in the areas of safe and secure learning. Continuous improvement of communication and emergency response protocols. We have definitely made some gains over this past school year, but we're continuing to always work to get better, and I'm looking forward to sharing more details about that during our later engagement sessions. And another high priority is really having the option for more in-school suspension. It's never our goal for students to be outside of school after certain infractions have happened. Most infractions really can be dealt with within a building, but we right now are really advocating for, instead of out-of-school suspension, more in-school suspension options and how to get that properly staffed, and then therapeutic classrooms as well, primarily at the elementary level is another huge need and something that we're hoping to get to assist with behaviors in safe and secure learning environments. Also wanted to point your attention to here. This is really our CRCSD hierarchy of safety needs. This is really just an assessment of what it would look like if we were to have like a full safe and secure learning, fully functioning and like healthy system. This ultimately is the goal. Looking forward to sharing more of this with you at some of our later parent engagement sessions. And as a district and being transparent, we really are in between 1 and 2 really at this time. We're really trying to make sure that our safety and emergency protocols are in place and that they are clear. We are working on eventually being able to establish things like threat assessment teams, making sure that our buildings are all secure and they have that secure building access, making sure that crisis response plans are clear. There are just many things that I look forward to sharing with you to help educate both staff and community and parents on what safe and secure learning environments looks like. It's not just one thing, it really is a full complex system with many layers. So look forward to teaching you more about that. The next time that you will see me in a presentation like this will be March 24th. But if you, for some reason, need to reach out, Carr at crschools.us. Thank you.